mentioned your area of expertise has been very much in groundwater pollution, and over in Utah, air pollution is front and center as far as their environmental quandary that they're dealing with. And one thing that we always try to pass along to the public is this is also groundwater pollution, because especially when you're trapped in this bowl, and if you're near a point source of pollution and they're putting off mercury and dioxin and all these kind of things, and then a storm comes, or snow or rain, it's just getting precipitated right back down into the groundwater. So we've tried to kind of bridge that gap a little bit, that this air pollution is also water pollution. But referring back to your legendary victory at this point in the case against PG&E, that situation involved somewhat of an isolated incident with chromium groundwater plume, where you were able to definitively link certain disease patterns to the exposure. And in the case of Stericycle, where we're dealing more with air pollution, which blows all around, and we're also in a neighborhood with an extraordinarily high number of industrial source polluters. There's 5 oil refineries pretty much within a stone's throw of Stericycle, for instance. Does that make things more difficult, and is your research leading you at all to any nearby cancer or disease clusters that you feel like might be able to be directly linked to Stericycle? Is there any chance of seeing a class action in this situation, or is Stericycle just going to inevitably point the finger and say, it was the refineries that caused your child's leukemia, and so forth and so on?
Well, that's a great question. And as we investigate, I can check back in with you every week or every month and give you updates as to how our investigations maybe led us to the ability to answer that question. Yes, it can complicate things when there's numerous point sources around. Sometimes, it can be comparative negligence, and sometimes lawsuits incur and they name all parties. But I don't know that the team is ready to go there legally yet. I certainly wouldn't have those questions. My first job is going to be to get in and identify proximity, look at all the air violations, what the actual chemicals are, and start having meetings with people and learning and listening from them. See, they're our best witness. After all, they're the ones living in it and breathing it and experiencing it, and we're going to have to trust what it is they tell us. I am getting reports already from people who are, maybe a half mile away, but they're concerned because they are reporting what appears to them, too many cancers on the street. They have, 2 neighbors across the street both just died of cancer, and then there's 4 down the way, and they have cancer, and then there was 6 over this direction. So you kind of start looking at a neighborhood and you pop out a number, 25 people with cancer. It's just always odd to me, but we have to get in and investigate and confirm all of that. So those reports are coming in. There are ways to exclude the others if it looks like the finger pointing is going to go on, because you can look at how high stacks are, how far they're going out, what the fallout is. There's experts that are excellent in modeling it. So, you might have a cone that is a half a mile in a certain wind direction, and you would anticipate that community could, in fact, have a lot of problems. So it's kind of going to be, for me, down on the ground, and once I have done that, I can answer those questions a lot better. So the investigation is getting ready to start. It's obvious we know we have a problem. I have to get in and look at a lot of the records, and I know that the air quality department in Utah has those. I haven't seen them yet, but we can model and get a pretty good idea of who's done what and who might be affected.
And along those same lines, of pinning down, particular disease patterns and linking them to the emissions of a particular point source, Stericycle is known, due to the process of the waste that they incinerate and a lot of the plastics that are going through the incinerator, to be emitting an exorbitantly high amount of dioxin. And I think I read that you were involved in another case, I think it's maybe Michigan.
Midland, Michigan.
Where, right, where dioxin is kind of the cornerstone of what's happening there. what are you finding as far as the disease patterns with dioxin, and could any of that be translated, into the Stericycle situation, even though we've got all the refineries pumping off benzene and everything else? Is there any kind of translation that could happen there?
Yeah, there is some, and it's more of a medical argument. And again, I don't want to sit here. I've done this long enough. I could probably give you a good toxicological response to that, but I'm not a toxicologist or the doctor or the scientist. I'm the person out there that has become a spokesperson, that is a representative of giving information, receiving information, and getting it in a location where we can do something about it, whether it's at a governmental level or whether it be litigation or just through awareness and doing information like this so people can make different choices and better choices. Sometimes it results in we might not be able to show medically a link with the dioxin or a certain illness, but we are able to show that this area is polluted and now maybe the property values are damaged. You're seeing this happen in Hinckley. PG&E's finally gotten, I think, a little bit smarter, and they've gone out ahead of it and are buying houses up and telling people you got to get out of the way. And if we could do that, that is progress as well, to make the people, at least their home values, restore that and get them in a safer location, I think is something that is definitely worth the fight. We won't always have a medical link. Sometimes we can't get there, but it's frustrating.
How do you get beyond, because it seems to me that we always observe over and over again when it comes down to the legal aspect. We see these polluters saying, prove it was our benzene that caused your child's leukemia. Prove it. And how do you get over that hurdle?
You can do that. I mean, there's laws, federal laws or state laws that carry the burden of proof, and there's Havner, and there's certain rules and regulations you have to meet to get over that. One is, what is the level of benzene? I mean, we know enough about benzene. We clearly know it causes leukemia issues, but what is the dose-response ratio? So it's a matter of getting in there and doing well testing, and what is the reading in the well? And, getting out there and doing air testing and looking at what is the concentration and the amount of chemical. Those are variables that can help attorneys prove with information what's happening in a court of law. And it's a frustrating argument, but, we have MCLs and we have regulations and know certain chemicals that are very dangerous. Benzene's being one of them. So when you get into a community and it's benzene and your defendant and you have readings and the concentrations and you have diseases that are clearly established and associated with that chemical.
And do you take samples like from breast milk and tissue and stuff like that within a community?
You can. In Hinckley, there was tissue taken from the gums. I haven't been involved in something with breast milk. However, dioxin is something that would come to mind that you might do some testing like that. Usually people already have their own blood work. They had been sick for years. It's not like they're reporting to us something's happening and at that very moment they got sick. It's been building up before somebody gets to me. And so usually there's a lot of information there for me to look at, and you can now begin to connect the dots. It's just been scattered information. It's been hidden documents. It's been hidden information. It's been a community that doesn't want to talk to their neighbor about their health issues, that doesn't want to talk about their child with cancer. And so there's little fragmented bits of information that we can pull together and make sense out of the story and go, oh my God, this is what's going on. That happens more often than not. But it's a frustrating argument for me at a personal level because there seems to be such a lack of common sense. And this argument that we keep up is just a perfect way for us not to find any disease patterns or any disease clusters because it protects the company, the polluter, and we all just go away thinking everything's fine. A poison is a poison. And to get into this argument that, 0.02 versus 0.05 could or couldn't have harmed you, when we've already established it's a poison, what are you thinking will happen to people? And what does it have to be, cancer and death to be significant? It kind of sucks to go through life as an asthmatic. I had a brother who was an asthmatic. He died. He dropped dead. Children, they can't concentrate at school because they've been impaired by some chemical neurologically. A mother, the fear that she lives with, living underneath a plant, and she can't get out, she can't escape, they can't afford to move. You know, the land is contaminated. I mean, it boggles my mind. I mean, we set rules and regulations in the state of California about not serving candy bars and vending machines to children because of obesity problems, and that can lead to heart attacks or kidney issues or diabetes. But let them live underneath a refinery.
But chewing on benzene's okay.
It's hypocritical. It's ludicrous. It's madness. It makes no sense. They said we all talk about secondhand smoke, don't we? But yet you let somebody live underneath a medical incinerator. You let somebody live on top of a massive oil spill with benzene and other compounds volatilizing into their homes. But yet that can't harm you. It can't be both ways. I'm not going to buy that story anymore. And I'm beginning to think people aren't going to buy that story anymore. And if you smoke a cigarette and you know it's got chemicals in it and it could lead to cancer, how are you going to convince me or others that when I live under a refinery, I'm not going to get the same effect? It's bullshit. And it's really frustrating. And I get that we have to have some parameters, but at some point we need to wake up to the bigger picture here. And there's more and more kids coming down with cancer in this country. Why is that? It's not an older population, it's a younger population. What's going on? What's the common denominator? We're seeing more and more water pollution. We're seeing more and more reports of it. You know, more and more air pollution
and
problems.
And these things are cumulative in the environment, and they're building up on us over
They are, and we've been doing these practices since what, the 40s, 50s?
Right.
Forever? I mean, chemicals have latency periods. Maybe that moment has come where those latency periods are going to run for everybody, and all of a sudden we've got all these popped up communities that have been known Superfund sites since the 70s. Nobody's come back to check on their health and welfare, and we're shocked that people are sick. And it can't just be about the cancer, because there's other diseases and illnesses that one can get from being exposed to small amounts to large amounts over a short period or long periods of time to chemicals that can just degrade your quality of life.
Well, and the 1 in 32 boys having autism in this area in Utah comes to mind quickly.
It does. And it's concerning. And it's a flag. And we can't not look at it. You know, I'm like I told you, I'm working on this map where all these communities are coming to me and we're plotting them on a map to look at the big picture. There's over 5,000 communities reporting to me now. On top of 35,000 Superfund sites, which I'm not going to sit here and go, you did it and you did it and you did it and you did it. Because it doesn't change a thing, does it? But what I want us to do is to be able to at least look at the information, look at the whole picture, and maybe recognize there's something here that we need to start prioritizing on. And could it be that pollution and these environmental problems are degrading and destroying the health and the welfare of an entire nation? And look at it. Let's stop the blame game and start finding solutions to fix it. We have the ability to do that, and we won't. There's the elephants in the room. We all just keep walking around it. We've got the technology. Companies have the technology. What has happened, we had this conversation earlier, to our morality and to what is important to every single one of us on this planet? So I'm hoping that we're entering an era, and I think that we are. Social technology, who knew, I think has gotten us there, to begin to see the whole picture and to see, is there a common denominator for all of these health issues that we're experiencing. Not every issue will be pinpointed and related to an environmental problem, but I think more than we thought will be. And that's a wake-up call for us to change our practices and get back to taking care of the environment, because without it, we're nothing. It is what sustains us, it is what has made us, and it will destroy us if we don't destroy it first.
Indeed. And